All right, we're recording now. So that was Michael Zygmunt, right? You're in Canada?
Montana.
Montana, okay. Yeah, so just started recording. Welcome to everybody that is here. Michael indicated he's gonna bail because he's got only a couple hours of sunlight left and he's got some animal chores to do. So that's cool. So yeah, you'll get a copy of this video since you're on my mailing list. And again, ultimately, I've been wanting to do this video for a long time to cover these topics that I referenced. And again, Daniel is here from Florida. He's kind of my right-hand wingman. He's going to pretty much piggyback on a lot of what I say, but to the most part, this is a sermon for America and really for the world. And it's a lecture. I mean, for all practical purposes, every university and around the world should take this video and just play it for their class, for their philosophy class, their religion class, their ethics class, and all kinds of classes, because we really are going to cover everything. I've been wanting to do this for some time. We're going to talk about the reality of the whole homosexual, LGBTQ, A to Z, transvestite, transgender, transsexual issues in relationship to morality and God, and political correctness, and the mainstream and how it's being pushed and what it's really all about. We're going to discuss racism, what that means, race, what is race, how people are just so limited in their thinking. They only the only thing they think of race is skin color when it's so much more than that. We're going to touch on the Jewish issue, the Jew psyop, I call it, Zionism, anti-Semitism, what that's all about. And then if we don't go too long, I am going to try to cover an issue I've been talking about lately with regards to, capitalism versus corporatism. There's a lot of confusion out there for people on that issue too. So here it is. Here's a video for all of America, all of the United States of America. I invited Black people. I invited Black people to come onto this. I mean, big time. I spent the last 4 days promoting this via my email. 2,000 people on my email list, and look how many people are here. Plus Dan sent it out to his email list. Joe sent it out. I put it on TikTok all week long, indicating that you're welcome. I've had people make comments on TikTok saying, I'm in, I'll be there. That could be Yemi, or Aaron. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with those two people. I'm going to introduce to everybody that's here and give everybody a chance to, say hello, introduce themselves if they like. If you do have a major question or concern or issue, do the raise your hand thing, right? There's a reactions button at the bottom, and if you click on it, it says raise hand, and then you can, kind of get in line for at the end for questions or comments. But I put it out for Black, Asian, Indian, anybody that's other than white. Please join, please come in and represent. Homosexual, LGBTQ people, please come in, represent. Jewish people, if you're Jewish, please join. So I think I might start off by reading, I meant to print it out. I'm just going to go on my phone here to a comment that was made on the video I sent out on TikTok, kind of promoting that I was going to be doing this. And I want to read this comment. This comment by Zest, Z-E-Z-T _ Zezler, Z-E-Z-L-E-R. He responded to my video when I put out the word that I was going to do this. He says, as a gay person, I have problems with where I think you will go with the gay issue. And this would make me fall out with you. So this is a person that, because of my efforts at thebigvirushoax.com, which I've been doing since, the beginning of 2020, and righteousarmy, .org over the last 6 months. This is a person who's been essentially appreciating my efforts at exposing the pandemic and the virus hoax. So, they're a follower, a semi-fan, whatever. And he says, but I think I know where you might be going with the homosexual issue. He says, i.e., look, you start off about how the parasite class use division and control. That's true. Now, where we see eye to eye is, I also lean towards there is no virus. But if you are gonna Bible bash me and others, how gays are an abomination in the eyes of God, blah, 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 guess what happens? ... question mark. You become my enemy is what happens, exclamation point. So I gotta pause to let some people in here too. You become my enemy is what happens. I do not want this fucking evil cult. He's referring to the, the pandemic people, but I also do not want it replaced by the Christian army and their insanity either. Rather, you should understand, yes, they are using blacks and gays, etc., but this does not excuse you becoming racist and homophobic and reaction. Rather, check this out, members of Gays Against Grooming dismantling the narrative. So he put a video for something where I guess he was trying to say, look, us gays are trying to do things against, pedophilia and stuff and whatnot. But here's a person who says he thinks he knows where I'm going to go. I invited that person to be on this Zoom meeting. It doesn't appear that they're here either. And the first thing I would say, that was a great email for me to read, because let me just add one more thing. I went on to a live on TikTok. I've been on lives a couple times on TikTok when I see them. I scroll through and I see people doing a live. And I'll always tell them, the one thing that I always see lacking in all these lives on Zoom, on TikTok, is they're all very superficial. They're very, very, fluffy, superficial, opinionated. You can never discuss the real deep issues, frankly, because if you do, your feed's going to get cut and you're going to get banned from TikTok and YouTube if you really try to discuss the truth, which is another reason I put this out. Let's really get to the bottom of it. Because when I was making that video, it was a woman who was doing a live and she had a couple girls and a couple guys on there. And I first made a comment. I said, first of all, what's missing in all these TikTok lives is nobody ever points out the fact that what's going on in this world right now is a new world order, one world government agenda. And when I said that, they were all like, like children, like, oh, you're bright, Mike, like I was some conspiracy theorist. So they just don't get it. So many people out there are clueless to the reality that there are multi-trillionaires in this world that own everything, and they're trying to steer society in a particular way, and they are concerned about overpopulation. It's like I've referenced in other videos, William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, where he talks how, documented, through military files, that for decades, going back to the 60s and 70s, the big elitist clubs were talking in their social get-togethers about the population of the earth and how, we need to do something. And, maybe we can create something in a laboratory and get it out there where it looks like a natural occurrence, i.e. the pandemic. And they've been working in labs for decades to try to accommodate that, and they've done it, which is what the whole COVID thing has been about. And he said in his book that they said that nuclear war is not off the table. It's on the back burner. In other words, if the pandemics don't go according to our plans, if we cannot knock off enough of the population with pandemics and viruses, we may have to go to war. And if you consider that they're creating underground bunkers, cities under mountains with hundreds of Walmart trucks going down there, bringing them their supplies. And we look around at all the news that's going on with Russia and the Ukraine and threats of nuclear war. It looks to me like they're gearing up for that because the pandemic didn't work. Too many people woke up. There was enough going around on mainstream media. I mean, rather on the social media, where people were questioning the whole narrative, and they started looking into the thing about viruses and vaccines and what's in them, and questioning it and not being sure about it and not going down that road. So many people have not fallen for their bait. So I think now that, yes, they're kind of moving to plan B. They're loading up their bunkers and they may well be going that route. The question becomes, at what point does the Creator God Almighty intervene? Will there be such a nuclear war? Will there be a tremendous surface level while they're all down in their bunkers, mass explosions all over so they can wipe out, a few billion people that way? And that's why they put the narratives of, oh, it's it's Putin, and it's you know, they're puppets. They control the puppets to create narratives in the mainstream media so that they can do what they want to do. So the fact that people are so ignorant and naive, especially the younger generation, 40 years of age and younger, about the reality that there is a one world government agenda. I mean, these people that laugh, is all they got to do is look at George Bush, the president, saying we have a new world order, right? I mean, it's no secret, it's no conspiracy theory. That's what they're endeavoring to do. So in the process of trying to achieve their new world order government, as this person who said he would become my enemy if I went the direction he thought I would be going, when I read his comment here, which I think I'll surprise him here in just a minute, if he ever, when he watches this video, he acknowledges, which a lot of people in the homosexual community acknowledge, and the Black community, they acknowledge that the powers that be use race and use transgenderism and use the gay community to divide. We all understand that. But here's the point. When I was in that live, is all I was doing was trying to have a rational conversation, thinking, okay, here's a live, a woman's narrating it, and they're talking about morality and God. And she was basically like, you know, what makes you think Christianity is the true religion, or, you know, Muslim, or who are you to say your religion's right? They were addressing the religion issue and morality, right? And God. So when I started speaking, again, I said, first of all, the thing that's lacking here is people are never discussing what the real underlying issue is on all these issues, whether it's left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, you know, homosexuality, racism, all of that stuff. The underlying problem with all of it is that new world order, one world government, communist agenda. The group of people that are pushing it all, that own the media, that own the banks, they're clueless to the fact that it's all being fed to the public to create these narratives to get people thinking in a certain way. So I said, look, let's just talk about it from the perspective of morality. So here I'm going directly now, Mr. Zesler, when you see this video and you see I read your email, and you think that we'll be enemies if I go down a particular path. I could sit here and say, and you alluded to it, yes, from a biblical perspective, if we were talking that way, and many people hold that position, the Bible condemns Old Testament and New Testament homosexuality. It's detestable. It's an abomination unto God. No homosexual will enter the kingdom of heaven. Yes, those are all Bible-based things, but that's not where I'm coming from. Where I'm ultimately coming from, and let me say this, Zesler and all the other homosexual community out there, I'm not homophobic. Well, let me finish my comment first about the live. When I started to make the comment on the live about it, I was trying to objectively state, look, let's use homosexuality as an example. I said, for people that do believe in a God, they believe that we're here by creative design. They do believe there's a great creator and that we're here by creative design. They believe we're here by creative design. They believe that God created us and that God did not create man to slide his erect penis. And I was trying to use, you know, medical, biological, scientific terms. I wasn't being crude. I wasn't being mean. I was just saying it's their belief that God did not create man to slide his erect penis into the rectum of another man and ejaculate the seed of life into his feces, right? And I wasn't being smart. I'm making a point. That's a strong position on why people are opposed to homosexuality. So the point is, a great many are not just opposed because of the religiosity or the Christianity. They're opposed to homosexuality based on their own moral turpitude, their own natural understanding of natural reproduction and natural order and men and women and yin and yang, and there being a natural process for reproduction. So, of course, homosexuality, since it certainly encompasses and includes the reality of a man, whether you want to say it the way I just said it, or sodomizing or having anal sex with another man, not only the fact that it's a man and a man is repulsive, not only is the notion of a penis going into an anus, whether it's a man or woman, right? You know, ejaculating the sacred seed of life, sperm, right? That sperm going into an egg actually creates a human being. And there's many people that would argue that's a sacred process. You're talking about a man holds semen and sperm that he can ejaculate into a woman's vagina and it gets into her egg and another life of another human being is born. Well, let's face it, they don't even give a damn about human life and the body, right? Because they're wanting to rip bodies out and they're wanting to, abort life to begin with. So they really don't care. There's certainly the group that doesn't care about life and they don't care about morality. So what I would implore or encourage not only the homosexual LGBTQ A to Z community to at least recognize for their own good, and I'll say this in perspective of a dear friend of mine who is gay or bisexual. And I've had many friends throughout my life, by the way, that were gay or homosexual. So I'm not homophobic, which, by the way, again, going back to when I made that comment in the live, and I said that, they shut me down. The woman was like, oh, that's the most horrible, homophobic, hateful thing I've ever heard anybody say. And another guy was like, wait a minute, what? Cut him off. And they cut me off because I made a comment. I made a legitimate, scientific, factual, biological terminology, that people that believe in a creator, believe that God didn't create man, right? And said it in the way I did using, penis. A man has a penis, and there is such thing as sperm and ejaculation, and a woman has a vagina, and there's an anus, and there's feces, and they're all medical terms. I didn't say anything crude or hateful, but yet they took it that way. Oh, that's the most hateful, homophobic thing I've ever heard. So what is the whole point here on the homosexuality issue? This good friend of mine who's in his 80s said the homosexual community should have never came out of the closet. It's a private thing. What you do in the privacy of your own home is your business. It doesn't belong in the media or in the government or in the public domain. And the big problem that we have, obviously, is the media. And when we get to section 3 here on Jews, anti-Semitism, the Jew psyop and all that, and we start looking at who actually owns and controls everything, it's purposeful, right? Because it is the media that pushes the political correctness. It's the media through all forms, the news, the television shows, the cartoons, the movies, the music, every form of media they use to push their agenda. So people are vulnerable and they're subject to that. And if they don't care, if they don't love truth, if they don't seek truth, if they don't love morality, if they don't seek morality, if they don't seek God, if they don't care about God, if they don't love God, if they don't care about moralities and decency, then of course they're going to be easily funneled into that agenda. They're going to go along with it and they're going to be part of it. They're going to be giddy, yippity. Hey, no, this is all good. It's all a good thing. There's no cognizance of morality or order for them whatsoever. They don't have it. There's very little we can do for them. There's nothing we can do for them. They have to do for themselves, right? So again, as all I can tell Zessler there is I'm not homophobic. I'm not hateful. I'm not a gay basher. I have friends that are homosexual. I'm just stating a plain and simple, putting God aside, biological, scientific, medical reality that because of the nature of a homosexual act between two men, it is understandably considered detestable, not just to God, using biblical references that indicate it's detestable unto the Creator. Put that aside. Just many human beings, millions upon millions of them, in their mind, it's detestable and gross. So should it be being pushed into their lives? Should it be being pushed into the school systems for their children to be having to be forced to accept it like it's some political correctness and it's some agenda that now has to be taught to all people? Do all people have to come around to accepting it as being perfectly normal and an alternative lifestyle? Impossible. It'll never happen, and it shouldn't happen. So what's the only answer? The answer is put Pandora back in her box, right? If homosexuality, LGBT community, the whole thing, we know it's being pushed for an agenda to divide. The only answer is that it's no longer permitted in the media to be pushed and promoted because the majority, right, the vast majority of people have the right to see. And this is where, again, you can never please everybody all the time. right? It's like, where are my rights overridden by your rights and vice versa, right? So we cannot have a community where the LGBT A to Z community is pushed upon everybody else when they're opposed to it. Just like the LGBT community should not be subject to being stoned to death by those who are opposed to it. The fact that they've made great strides in getting to the point where they don't have to worry about that, and they can have governmental assistance with things that would pertain to their rights under federal civil rights, should suffice. The fact that it's being pushed, and here's the problem too, there's many people in the homosexual gay community that would agree with what I'm saying, but there's many people in that homosexual gay community that are actually agents of the New World Order people that are pushing it. They're helping them along because it's an agenda for the New World Order one world government. It's an agenda for them. So they're very happy to see the liberal progressive minded loons that go along with it and do their work for them. So a bunch of homosexual or people that are gay that are more conservative minded are also getting trodden over by that liberal progressive loon faction of LGBTQ A to Z, that are wanting to push their way upon the rest of society. So we can say that with regards to the homosexual agenda, and I'm glad Daniel's here because I'm pretty sure Daniel will take the more stringent biblical approach and just say it like it is from a Bible perspective. And I want to welcome him to do that now. If anything, just so that because I'm trying to be just like the man of peace. I'm trying to be, let's bring everybody together, even when that's impossible to do. I'm trying to put it in its proper perspective, right? Like I did in the live TikTok where they shut me down because I made a factual statement about what homosexuality is in terms of why it's oppositional and detestable to many people, right? Because it's contrary to natural reproduction. And ultimately contrary to the laws of a creator who created mankind. And many people hold to that. So you can't push your ways, LGBTQ A to Z agenda, upon all these other people. In fact, the powers that be are trying to get you to do that so they can create that opposition and those fights and that battle, where they do have even their own formulated Nazi groups, their own formulated NSM groups to get out there with their black jackets and their red patches and their guns to go kicking homosexuals in the street and create fights and try to draw others into that. So they want to create that. The ultimate solution is regulations for a conservative society in the public domain, because that doesn't take your rights away. You still have your rights, but your rights are private. Your rights have nothing to do with the government or the public domain, wherein all minds, including children, are subject. Dan, if you'd like to elaborate on my statement regarding homosexuality, the LGBTQ agenda.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, you made your point, and I've got all kind of verses here we could go down through, but they're in the New and the Old Testament. But folks need to understand something. The Catholic Church gave us the books of the Bible. There are many other writings from antiquity that support everything we're saying, not to mention the science community. When I was a boy growing up in the 1950s and 60s, all the elders knew what we're talking about here today. It was common knowledge. You went to church, you didn't hear anything different. In fact, when I was a boy, people were ashamed if a Protestant married a Catholic, because the two faiths are almost opposite of each other. All right. So if they were ashamed of that, you can bet your bottom dollar they would not have been very proud to show that they had married another race. Everybody understood kind after kind. That's exactly what scripture means. Kind after kind.
Yeah, right now, Dan, keep it just on the LGBT homosexuality issue. We're going to get to race next, but just right now, everything you got, go ahead and throw out scriptural verses if you have them as well, just so they're there for the benefit of the viewers of this video. Go ahead and cite them, Old Testament, New Testament, and again, any perspective you have on the homosexual LGBTQ issue.
Well, that one goes against nature. I mean, you don't find it in the animal kingdom. You don't find it in the vegetable and plant world. There's a male and a female.
Forgive me, Dan. Let me interrupt you there. Let's elaborate on that, because that's one of the comebacks that this woman had on her live. She goes, I can show you 100 animals in the animal kingdom that are homosexual. And I said, no, you can't show me 100. And my whole life, I've only seen one example in my life of some science, geographic national Nat Geo documentary where it showed some monkey orangutan, doing it with some other monkey orangutan. Now, my comment on that is, if you as a human being want to associate yourself with an animal, that's your choice. But most human beings don't associate themselves with animals. That would be my comment on that. But there are people that will try to say that, Dan. They'll try to say, oh no, in the animal kingdom, and they'll try to use that to justify it.
Well, typically in the animal kingdom, it happens when man steps in and isolates the males from having access to the females. They leave that part out. In the natural world, they don't do it, ever. Just don't ever do it. Leviticus 18:22, you shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It's an abomination. Further down
Dan, I'm sorry,
in
Dan, I just want to welcome Neil Shaw, came in late, but Neil, hopefully you'll see this video. I covered a lot of stuff already, from a very neutral, just trying to make an overall presentation regarding, the homosexual LGBTQ, issues from my perspective. I just happen to have Dan now as piggybacking on me and giving it from definitely from a more biblical, and not just biblical, but other writings and spiritual kind of perspective. And again, hello to Andrew Tate, two fellas that just came in late. But go ahead, Dan, finish up.
So also in chapter 18 of Leviticus, starting at verse 26, so then keep my rules and my decisions and do not do any of these disgusting things. Those of you who are—
I think that's wrong, actually.
You got to troll,
Say that
buddy.
again. Yeah, if you have a question, if anybody coming in, if you have a question or comment, please do the raise hand. If you know how to do
My bad.
that, no problem. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for everybody that's being here. I've just noticed a few new people coming in. So thanks for being here. Yeah, thanks for coming in. I'm going to mute everybody for now. Just make sure you're muted.
Daddy, I want you. Daddy, you're so hot.
And then how do you mute permanently, I guess?
Daddy, you're so hot.
You remove
Daddy.
them.
No, yeah.
Daddy,
Well, thank you.
Daddy, Daddy, I
appreciate
want you. Your hair is so nice.
Thank you. She likes my hair. My wife, would you like to see how beautiful my wife is?
Daddy, how old are you?
We got to have a little humor in here,
16.
right?
What the fuck is that?
We got to have
What
a
is
little
that?
humor in here.
I'm
Hey,
a
we got
fucking
Andrew
figure. I
Tate.
was picking boxes.
We got Andrew Tate with us.
I
That's
don't
great.
know what it is. $6 grand.
All right. So
Format,
Andrew,
customized typing and stitching.
Daddy, faster, ride me.
Andrew, you're kind of
I
late,
take
but we
every
covered
option.
we covered
Put
some.
it on the Lambo configurator and takes every box. All of them. Where do I sign? Here. Purchase
Andrew.
signature. Boom, boom, boom.
And
all these other dorks on Twitter. Look, I bought a Tesla Model 2. I put a
Andrew, I
$400
appreciate you.
with your fucking geeks.
Appreciate
Who
you
the fuck
stopping.
drives a Tesla? There's no man alive in a Tesla I couldn't kick the living fuck out of. I'll drag you from your Tesla by your neck.
Andrew,
Fuck
can you
your
hear me?
dick. You
I don't know
won't
if
do
he came.
I'll
Maybe,
be back.
maybe Andrew came in here by accident or something. I don't know. I guess he didn't even say anything, but that was entertaining.
Hey, Daddy,
Little girl's back. So
Daddy.
I'm going to try to find a way to get rid of her here if I can. Let me see. Remove. Have a good night, little sweetie pie.
Pedo, you're a pedo. I'm reporting you.
All right. So let me see. Submit report. I guess I'll submit a report on that one. Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was entertaining, right? You know, little entertainment, little humor in there. Go ahead, Dan. That was a shame, though, to see Andrew Tate come in and be like. That was a shame to see Andrew Tate come in and appear apparently so uneducated, unrefined. He usually seems to try to talk, you know, in a sophisticated, intelligent, educated way, and that seemed to be lacking there with him. That was unfortunate. Now my screen is okay. So okay, there's the entertainment, I guess. I'll try to be more quick on the draw there next time. We had our share of entertainment. So go ahead, Daniel. Finish up. Daniel was just talking from the, again, scriptural, biblical perspective, so just so it's on record, because many people hold to that as well. I addressed it from really not even having to go the way of God or religion, or the Bible verses or anything else, just by way of how so many human beings view it from a natural perspective. But go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, first of all, that probably wasn't Andrew Tate. Somebody just streamed the video and put his name in there when they logged in. I don't think that was actually him.
Oh, good point. Thanks for clarifying that. So my apologies to
You
you,
got
Andrew.
trolls. You got trolls attacking you, and you need to figure out how to remove them immediately.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Next one we'll just get rid of right away. Go ahead, brother.
Right. So anyway, people can go to Leviticus 18 and read what I was just reading, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, where it talks about the fact that the people that are considered, quote, sexually immoral are idolaters, race mixers, and men who practice homosexuality, thieves, greedy, drunkards, revilers, swindler. They're all lumped together. Okay, so that's in the New Testament for the Zio Christards out there that only want to look at the New Testament. Same thing in Romans chapter 1. Dishonorable passions, and that has to do with women or men that sleep with their own kind. Jude chapter 1, same thing. Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities indulged in sexual immorality, which means violating God's law, and pursued unnatural desires. And they serve as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire. You can go to 1 Timothy chapter 1, Mark chapter 10, Genesis 19, and Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. So plenty of biblical proofs of the homosexuality besides the science. And again, what would happen if you take it to the logical conclusion? If we all adopted homosexuality, what would happen? We would cease to exist. So obviously, it's not even rational. Not even rational.
Right.
So their whole argument just goes up in smoke. I mean, it's a mental social construct, the same mental illness that says I can identify as something other than what I am. That's the same mental illness that says that the same sexes can marry or sleep with each other, which is in direct violation of not just the biblical law, but every commonsensical law, every rational thought. I yield.
Yeah. So let's tie that back to something I didn't necessarily address fully, and that is, again, wow, as was just demonstrated by these trolls that came in, and you could tell they were younger generation. It's representative. They were good representation for certainly 30 years of age and younger. Unfortunately, they're representative of many that are 40 years of age and younger. They're immature. They're not thinking. They don't care. They have no concept, no appreciation for morals or standard. They question God. They try to follow this academia, pseudoscience, like they're some sophisticated, intelligent type people, that they have no appreciation whatsoever for truth or morality or God. So one of the things I'll frequently try to do as well is to use morality as the basis for there being a God. In other words, God ultimately is the basis for a standard in morality. That's the point. If we take God out of the equation, there is no God. Let's just say, for the sake of argument here, there's no God, there's no creator. We just came by happenstance, billions of years of evolutionary theory that just happened to bang into existence by some buzz of electricity that bolted and created little amoebas in the mud that evolved into fish and land-dwelling fish and monkeys. And here we are billions of years later, as the anti-God agenda promotes, right? And let's say there's no afterlife, there's no hereafter, there's nothing, this is it, one time we're gone. There is no morality. Morality is entirely subjective. So therefore I can really do whatever I want. If there's no penalty, if there's no principle, there's no basis, there's no moral guideline, and there's no judgment, there's no reward, I can do whatever I want because this is my life, and when I die, that's it, and there is no God. So I mean, what a basis for anything goes. What a basis for justifying murder, justifying rape, justifying pedophilia. Because, man, if I can get away with it, I'm just trying to fulfill myself here. That little girl looks kind of hot, man. Let me indulge in the pedophilia realm because, man, I can, there's no punishment. I mean, even though there's in this world contradictory laws in that regards, because we know that politicians and movie stars and people that make it in this world, they seem to have rights to indulging in those things, but then they use it against the common person as if they can't, just to create also that rift of contradiction and division. But you hear about people that are raping women. It's because, man, they're just trying to get what they can while they can get it. And if you can get away with it, more power to you. You know, if you can get away with, you know, having some children be your sex slaves, man, there's no God, there's no judgment. I mean, if you can get away with it, if you can get away with it, more power to you, right? I mean, that's what it justifies. It's a moral relativity. It's all relative. You know, what's moral to me isn't to you. What is to you isn't to me. So it's all relative. It's the Aleister Crowley approach, satanic approach. If it feels good, do it. If it feels good, go for it. Enjoy yourself. That's ultimate love. You're just experiencing life. And that's what they're promoting. And that's the basic underlying psycho-emotional reality that's occurring in so many of our young people right now, especially the ones that question the existence of a creator, God Almighty. So, yeah, I would say that morality, boundaries and principles and ethics and a guide, you know, a guideline for morality, going back to my earlier point, if God created us, and he created a man to ejaculate semen, and he created a woman to have an egg, and that sperm in that egg actually represents the production of a brand new human life, sacred process. So obviously defiling it to do other than that. In other words, God created it to be that way. So why go opposed to God's law, God's creative will, God's creation? God created human beings to be decent, but God created human beings with free will, and God knew with free will there would come all these problems we have in this world. So ultimately this world is about seeing who you are, seeing what you're made of, and do you deserve to move on to a higher plane? Will you pursue that path? Will you pursue a love of truth and morality, which is held by God Almighty? Will you pursue it, or will you disregard it, laugh at it, shun it, and not want nothing to do with it? And that's the division. That's the division we're going through right now in this world, as a matter of fact. So I think I'll move on at this point to race. You started to allude to it there a little bit, Dan. And you'll elaborate probably more on this than what I'll say, which is great because you have great insights on this. But here's the bottom line on race. For all, again, the painful frustration I feel and sense when I see these TikTok videos of all these different people, black and white and Asian and bearded rednecks, and they're all trying to say like, hey, my black brother, you know, and we're just all one. We're just a happy family here, and there ain't no skin color don't mean nothing, and those damn racists trying to use race, you know, like race is an issue. You know, there isn't no race. We're all one human race, right? We're just one human race. You know, skin color doesn't mean anything. So they literally only have a concept of skin color is the only thing they can fathom to try to wrap their head around anything having to do with race, skin color. Well, again, if you believe in a creator, God Almighty, and again, we can put God aside. If you believe in Mother Nature, all right? If we look at nature and we go back in time, what do we know when we go back? The further we go back, there are tribes of different types of people throughout the world in their own nations, their own nativity, their own birthplace, with their own customs, their own cultures, their own traditions, their own skin tones and facial features and nose and eyes and lips and hairstyle, right? Chinese, straight black hair, slanted eyes, light skin, with their customs and their traditions. Negroes, blacks throughout Africa, not all of Africa, but certain parts of Africa, having the nappy curly hair, the big lips, the broad nose, the big bone structure, the dark skin, some light brown, some dark black, with their cultures and their traditions and their ways. Go back before the USA. Go back before 300, 400, 500, 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago. They were in their tribes and their nations, in their lands, doing their thing. It's only now because of this modern world that has been fabricated, and the modern world that we currently live in is only a part of what they're pushing for with this New World Order, one world government agenda. So that's part of the reason we have the problems we have right now to begin with all these controversies with race. But I just want to state that race, if you just look at it from nature, nature had all these different unique, beautiful beings with their nations and traditions and cultures and languages and features. That's race. So very foolish and unlearned, misinformed, uninformed, uneducated when people try to correlate race like it's just a skin color thing. Look, there's white, Caucasian, you know, whatever label you want to put on it, Saxon, Anglo-Saxon, Aryan, white people, some of which are darker skin, darker tan, some of which are lighter and white and pale. There's a variation. Just like with Negroes, blacks, there's some that are very black, dark black, some that are more light brown, but they're still within that race. The Asians, there's Japanese, Chinese, Korean, they're all in the Asian race, but there's variations. So ultimately, the great creator, just like he created birds, right? He created birds, they're all birds, but a blue jay and a cardinal and a mockingbird and a robin are all uniquely different and beautiful. That's part of the glory of creation, right? God made different birds. I think I'll look up this video and play it real quick before I let you start, Dan, with your insights on this. But the bottom line is people need to start recognizing that anybody who takes a position for wanting to preserve and protect their race, their racial identity, their racial integrity is not inherently a hateful, bigoted, intolerant racist. That is just the label that has been put on, again, through that agenda, you know, that's being driven, which is, again, the New World Order, one world government agenda. I addressed this issue very articulately, and what's really not a very long, I think I'm going to read it just for the record here for this video. I'm going to read, and just so people know, I'm going to the bigvirushoax.com, and I'm actually going to, at the top left on a computer, you'll see at the top of the page the navigation. You'll see navigation at the top, but on your phone, you know, you got your three little dots. And if I click on the three lines, it says blog. So I'm clicking on the blog at thebigvirushoax.com, and the top, my most recent blog, you can see it there. I don't know. It's it says ultimate truth, race, racism, racist, and racial integrity. Here is the bottom line and ultimate truth on matters of race, racism, racist, and racial integrity. There are two definitions, interpretations, applications, or versions of the term race. There is the mainstream media promoted version, which only associates skin color to racial issues and is intended to foster a narrative of division and hate. And there is the godly, accurate, and true version, which is based upon the following principles. One, acknowledgement of the obvious fact that there are different races of people. Two, believing there exists a creator, Lord God Almighty, the God of life, who created all the unique, beautiful, different races of people. Three, respecting and appreciating the uniqueness, beauty, value, and diversity of all the different races. Four, believing all people in all races deserve equal rights under the laws of God and the laws of their respective nations and tribes. And five, taking the position that all races should be acknowledged, respected, appreciated, honored, protected, and preserved. Where is the social and political, Where are the social and political calls for the protection and preservation of races, racial identity, and racial integrity? I love all decent, moral, intelligent, and godly-minded people, regardless of their skin color, language, nationality, or race. Hence, I support racial integrity and racial preservation. Nobody who does should be labeled with any negative words in any negative sense. They are separatists or racists in a very good and positive sense. They should not be labeled with the negative mainstream version of the term racist. In fact, anyone who knows the original language for the 10 Commandments knows that God commanded in the 7th commandment to not mix blood or adulterate your bloodline in the 10 Commandments. Granted, people fall short of many of the 10 Commandments, but they are what they are. We should all strive to live in accordance with them. God made and intended for all the unique, beautiful, different races to be what they are. The powers that ought not be within this world are all about destroying what God made and remodeling life after their own godless, immoral, and perverted model of homosexuality, gay marriage, transvestites, transsexuals, transgenders, no race, no black or white, no gender, no male or female, and ultimately transhumanism by merging humans with artificial intelligence and robotics and microchips. I stand intelligently, boldly, and fearlessly against their godless intent and pursuits. Who is with me? If you are, get on any one or a few of our mailing lists below. Also, please support my efforts. So it goes on giving some support links and mailing lists. And then I wrote here, here's a great, I said, great minds think alike. So let me just play this real quick for the record.
I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
That's because society.
And going out.
That's society's fault.
Well, life is too short for me to be catching hell for something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. Have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. So I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good.
But I think it's sad that
it ain't sad because I want my child to look like me. Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics don't want to marry number Catholics. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race? You're a hater of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake when he made us all like we were.
So there's a great man, right? Honored, respected by a great many millions upon millions of people. And what a wonderful thing that video exists with Muhammad Ali, the greatest, saying it so succinctly. And he's really saying then what I'm saying now. God created the unique, beautiful, different races. So it's fair to say, it would be like saying today, the mad scientists of this world, the pseudoscience community, all of a sudden they start saying, you know what, we know how to genetically modify things. And, let's go ahead and start putting in all the bird feed and all the seeds, a genetic modifier so that all the birds start looking the same. So there's no more bluebird, there's no more robin, there's no more oriole, there's no more redbird or robin or cardinal. They just all become birds and they don't even have any identity. So obviously this whole thing of destroying what God made is a big part of what's going on and creating this confusion with people. True diversity, it's mind-blowing how the leftist, liberal, progressive side tries to promote, well, you don't believe in diversity. We're about diversity, gays and homosexuals and all the races. No, they're about making everybody become, if they could have their way, every single person on earth would be an amalgamated mix of all the races that were homosexual, transgender, lib, progressive, no male, gender fluid. That's their agenda, destroy what God made. Go ahead, Dan, and elaborate from your perspective on everything I said. And then Hold your hand there, Joseph.
Hold-
We're going to cover these issues first. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'll just run down through a few. I'd also recommend everybody read a book called Anthology of Racial Issues by Charles Weisman, one of the best books out there. But you can go to Leviticus chapter 19. You shall keep my commandments or statutes. You shall not let your cattle breed with a different kind. You shall not sow your field with two different kinds of seed, nor shall you wear a garment of cloth made of two different kinds of material. It goes back to the Greek word used in the Septuagint, mukesus, which is mongrelization or adulteration. Deuteronomy 23, verse 2, no one born of a forbidden union may enter the assembly of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants may enter the assembly of Yahweh. Deuteronomy 7, verse 3 and 4, you shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their son or taking their daughters for your sons. For you will turn away your sons from following me, meaning Yahweh the Father, to serve other gods. Then the anger of Yahweh will be kindled against you, and he will destroy you quickly. Nehemiah 13, as soon as the people heard the law, they separated from Israel all those of foreign descent. Numbers 25, behold, one of the people of Israel came and brought a Midianite woman to his family in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the people of Jacob Israel. While they were weeping in the entrance of the tent of meeting, when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose and left the congregation and took a spear in his hand and went after the man of Jacob Israel into his chamber and pierced both of them, the man of Jacob Israel and the woman, through her belly. Thus the plague on the people of Jacob Israel was stopped. And you can go more, you can get into Jeremiah chapter 2, 1 Peter chapter 2, which again, that's New Testament, folks, and it was written to the Adolphos, which is the people of the same womb, meaning the Caucasian Israelites, who are the white race or the Caucasian race today. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, meaning people, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness or ignorance into his marvelous light.
Thanks, Dan. So let's elaborate on this anymore with the good old word nigger, right? The N word, right? Let's put that into proper perspective. Again, it's this new world order, one world government agenda people, which is going to be the next topic we're going to start discussing here, that have put all these divisive things out. Again, they're about destroying what God made, and they're about destroying humanity in every way, because that's supposed to be the highest thing that God made, right? Made man in his image, right? But again, God made man with free will, so he knew there would be those that go the wrong way and those that choose the right way. So what I would say is that this whole, I would say it like this: they created niggers. They created niggers. Black people aren't niggers. Nobody's a nigger because they're black. The people behind all of this agenda, which again is going to be the next subject we discuss here, they created deliberately the whole concept of, in fact, I can't remember his name, but there was a black rapper in the 90s, a great video. Josh, what was his name? He did the video about how Crazy Bone. Yeah, a black rapper that came out in a video talking about how he was called into this room with these white elitists with all the money that were saying back in the 90s, yeah, we've got this, we're creating all these private prisons and we need to fill them up. And we want you guys to start doing kind of a music that's really promoting, drugs and guns and thugism, thugs. And we got to get this youth out there, correlating with that mentality, because it's going to help us fill up our prisons, because we're going to make money with those prisons because the government pays us X amount for all the people we get into the prisons. So they literally, that's been a pet peeve of mine. My son's 30 now. He's a hotshot firefighter. He's smart, intelligent, sophisticated, educated. When he was a teenager, he was subject as an adolescent, as a teenager, as an easily influenced youngster, right? Children in our youth, they're vulnerable, they're malleable, they're influenced, and they target them through the media. So I remember my son when he was 12, he changed on a dime. When he became 12, all of a sudden, all of his little friends from school, white boys, right? Little white children, you know, all going around with boom boxes and talking like, yo, my nigga, what's up? Hey, dog, nigga, what you do? So that whole nigger behavior, right? The nigger mentality, my nigga, what's up, my nigga? They have literally been on that for 30 years now, since the 90s. It was really heavy in the late 90s into between 2000, 2015. They were really pushing it. It seems like it's kind of lately started getting a little bit watered down and kind of heading in a little bit different direction. But essentially, they have exploited Black, Negro human beings of the Negro race, the Black Negro race of peoples, of which there's a diversity. They have exploited them. That race was not just exploited by way of slavery, which is going to come in to the next topic as well, on who was really behind the slavery, who was really behind it, who was the money behind it, and why they were pushing it the way they were. But they not only pushed the exploitation of the Negroid, Negro, Black races and diversities of people, but in the last 30 years, they've literally used them, exploited them to create the niggers, to create niggerism. They made it. They created it. And they have sucked through influence the youth into it, and not just Black youth, white youth, Asian youth. It's so despicable and disgusting to me now when I see how Hollywood and so many of their movies, I'm so disappointed when I try to watch a movie. Every once in a while, my wife wants to rent a movie. Occasionally we get a good movie. It was like, wow, it was a good movie. 99% of the time.
What's your favorite movie?
99% of the time, I'm commenting all through the movie on the patheticness of how they had to add that part or that language or this act or that behavior, because they subtly just drip it in. And you have them where they're not only pushing the nigger that they created, that gangsta wearing, you know, the tattoos and the bling and trying to get this association of Blacks being cool because they got a gun and they're selling drugs and they got a nice BMW and they got the Rolls Royce and they're giving them like, let's turn them into trash. Let's turn them into gangsta, nigger, drug thief, criminal, thug persona, but glorify them simultaneously with money and thugs and different women from different races. They used the Blacks initially to create that and sucked in. Now I see Asians, right? You see Asian, you know, like a gang of Asians, you know, and again, it's only in what they promote through their music and their videos and music and Hollywood and television shows, like a gang of Asians, and they're all walking, acting like niggers, right? They're yo, my man, what's so much doing the nigger act that they created. The white boys, let me get the tattoo, let me get the bling, let me talk like a yo, my nigga, let me get my pants to hang down my ass. That whole nigger mentality.
Talking about races.
They have just, excuse me? Say again, love? Okay, yeah, please hold the comments. Please raise your hand like Joseph did if you have a comment to make, and we'll get to your comments and questions. But certainly that is all I heard you say. There was something about racist. That does facilitate the concept of racism, because we addressed earlier in this segment that the vast majority of people are not racist in that mainstream media driven interpretation of not liking people because of the color of their skin. In fact, what they've done is they've made it so that what would be considered, you know, conservative, Christian, ordinary, average white people that are, you know, educated, hardworking, that don't, you know, go around, or their children don't go around with their pants down their ass and going, yo, my nigga, what's up, man? You know, they don't do that, right? When that class of white, Caucasian, Aryan, whatever label you want to put on it, Anglo-Saxon peoples see the Blacks that are acting like niggers, they'll say, oh no, there's Black people and there's niggers. there's black people and there's niggers. I've heard that from whites throughout my life. And what's sad is there's a lot of black people that acknowledge that. And there's a lot of black people that will be out there saying, brothers, sisters, stop acting like niggers. Be black human beings that you are. Be decent, be respectable. So as a white man, I would say the same thing to all my white brothers and sisters out there. Stop acting like a nigger. The blacks should stop acting like niggers, right? The Asians should stop acting like niggers, because the nigger thing was created to be a thug thing, to create controversy, to create division, and now to make the white people that are opposed to that thuggish, disgusting, despicable behavior start saying, damn niggers, look at them damn niggers, look at these niggers acting like niggers. That's what they're going to do. So they know that. Now, oh, you're a racist. You said nigger, you're a racist. You're calling those niggers who are acting like niggers, so you're a racist. No, I'm not calling any decent, normal black person a nigger. I have black friends. I have great black friends. As a music teacher, I spent the night at friends' house blacks. I drank from the same glass. I eat off the same plate. I give them a hug and a kiss. I give them a handshake. I spend time with them, teaching their sons and their daughters guitar and piano and drums, having a good time. I'm not a racist by any stretch of the imagination. I see black people as being the unique, diverse, different race of people that they are, and I appreciate that. That's true diversity. See, again, the big problem we have now is the new world order, one world government agenda they're pushing for, destroy everything God made and create this communal reality. And that takes us to our third segment here. Unless you have anything else to say, Dan, on the race issue. And anybody that has any questions or comments, please raise your hand and you'll be taken when we're done with the next segment. Go ahead, Dan.
Nope, I think we covered it.
Okay, so again, we've talked about how homosexuality and the LGBT community agenda is being pushed into the lives of everybody, including those who have a basis for being opposed to it, which therefore the people in that community should understand and respect that, and should also start speaking out against the NWO and the government and saying, stop parading us in the streets, stop pushing us in the movies, stop pushing us on the TV shows, let us have our personal sexual preferences in the privacy of our own bedroom, because there's people that don't appreciate the way we live. That would be them being respectful to the other people, right? So it goes the other way, stronger the other way. But no, they push it so that they're trying to push that whole agenda on everybody. Same with racism. Let's push it. Let's create ways of pushing and creating it where a white man will say, look at those niggers. Oh no, there's black people and there's niggers, right? Oh, but now we can call them a racist because they said nigger, even though they have a reason to say it because they don't like that thuggism bullshit, but now they're a racist because they said nigger, right? So let's create all that division. How about we all just clean up humanity? How about all human beings, white, black, Asian, Indian, not only be decent and respectable and respectful unto others and moral, but the ultimate reality would be if all the nations were restored, which the Bible talks about that the nations will be restored, and they should be. The Indians got it bad here in the Americas. The American Indian, they got it as bad, if not worse, than the blacks through slavery, which we're going to discuss the slavery issue here now, segueing, Dan, into the New World Order, one world government agenda. The people that are behind all these movements that occurred, who are they? A lot of people will hear people out there say, the damn Jews, right? Here's the classic racism comment, the damn niggers and the damn Jews.
Can you mute? Can you mute your mic?
So there's the classic statement, right? Classic statement, the damn niggers and the damn Jews. So we just addressed where that
no, bro, I said mute. Mute your
concept
mic.
would even
mute
come
your mic.
from.
Mute your mic.
Right? We just addressed.
Nah,
I don't want to have to make
mute your mic, bro.
I guess,
mute your mic, bro.
I guess you want to leave, Neil Shaw?
Oh yeah, okay. I'll leave. I'm sorry.
You can stay if you want. Just raise your hand if you have a question or comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad.
No problem. Yeah, raise your hand if you have a question or comment like Joe did, and we'll take whatever you want to say. And you just came in, so you missed some of the things I was saying there. So to the extent that they've created that conflict with race, they've created the conflict with all the LGBT community agenda. They also have now a way of saying, again, it's the damn niggers and the damn Jews that are destroying our society, saith the white man. Why are they saying that? Why are they saying that about homosexuality and LGBT? Because it's being pushed into their lives by those who are doing it. Why are they saying that about blacks? Because they love black people, but they don't like niggers, right? Why are they saying that about the Jews? Because the understanding is the Jews, here's the basis for anti-Semitism, the damn Jews. Why would anybody say that? The only reason anybody says the damn Jews, or they blame the Jew or point their finger at the Jew, is because they have an understanding that the Jews own Hollywood. The Jews own the vast majority of television networks. The Jews own the Fed. The Jews own the world banks. The Jews own all the mainstream media and news. The Jews own all this media where they can create the narrative, all of which is about LGBTQ and niggers, right? The niggers that they created, the LGBT that they created, to take away from the decency of human beings that are moral and godly and black and white and red and yellow and created by God and seeking the high road and doing what's right. So they've created all this confusion. And who did? Oh, the Jews did. Well, wait a minute. I've uncovered what I call the Jew psyop. In Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 in the Bible, it says those who call themselves Jews but are not, they are liars. I will make them to fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I love you. Now, here's where we run into a bit of a problem. My son and I talk about this all the time. Dan has great insights on this, and I'm still working on getting all the kinks out of it, because some people will say it's the Jews, meaning if we look at Karl Marx, we all understand Karl Marx was a communist Jew. And we understand that his predecessors and proteges were Jews and Jewish rabbis who wrote books saying we must destroy the white man. And they're white, at least in the eyes of people. They see them as being white Jews. So in essence, these people are the ultimate white supremacists because they're about destroying all races, including the whites that are not Jews. So what we have is a group of people that are at least self-identified as Jews, i.e. Karl Marx and his predecessors and proteges, who all went over to a little place called Russia in the early 1900s, and they killed the Christian Tsar and his family, and they literally started what was called the Jewish Bolshevik Revolution, where the Jews took over Russia and killed the Christian Tsar, and essentially started, in a nutshell, started World War I. Now, the greatest bit of information on everything I'm about to talk about now, aside from what Dan's going to elaborate on, can be found in a 12-hour historical documentary called Europa, The Last Battle. Awesome documentary. I watched it twice. My father, 80 years old, saw it. My son, 30. Everybody I know who's watched it said it flipped their life upside down 180 degrees on what we understand about history and who was behind it, the money behind it, the Rothschild money, the world bankers that funded it and had nations go to war and do what they funded both sides of the war and took money away from the side they wanted to lose because they were nation building. That's what they're doing. They're trying to create a new world order, one world government agenda. That started back in the 1800s. It started before that, but that's when the real push started coming with the industrial war complex. So you must watch Europa, The Last Battle, all 12 hours without missing a second from the beginning to the end, and then you will have a better understanding on everything I'm talking about. But the Jewish Bolshevik Revolution, they killed 60 million Poles, Germans, and Russians in what they were doing, with many of those people who identify as being Jews calling for the death of whites and the destruction of all races. So knowing that people that so many Caucasian, Aryan, Anglo-Saxon, white people understand to be Jews own Hollywood, the papers, the media, because even back then it was the newspapers. They were putting out the narrative. Now, if we fast forward to World War II, it was Judea who first declared war against Hitler and against Germany. Now, in a nutshell, Hitler was a man who was trying to regain Germany that was taken over in World War I. He was trying to restore his nation, not take over the world. He was trying to restore his culture and his people, which was a beautiful German culture at the time. And he did not drop one bomb on England until after England devastated 25 cities, including Dresden with over 25,000. They firebombed it. just a tremendous amount of information people need to be aware of to better understand the truth behind World War I, World War II, who was behind it, the money, and what it was all about. You must watch that documentary. But the point is, the people that were behind it were at least self-identified as Jews, understood themselves to be Jews. Now, here's where it can get complicated. People that study religion, particularly Christians that study the Bible and study Bible prophecy, many of them come to realize there's a thing in the Bible and Daniel and Revelation called Babylon, called the beast power, and they understand the Roman. Here it is in a nutshell. When the man Yeshua was on this earth, he was really a man on this earth. This isn't giving any credence to Christianity, the religion. Mainstream Christianity, the religion today, anybody who's opposed to it, no problem, I'm with you, because it's all a facade, it's all a psyop. Mainstream Christianity is a big lie. But there was a man here named Yeshua. Now, we can debate on whether he lived out a long life and ascended, or he died, or he rose again. People have different philosophical and religious takes and perspectives on it. I'm not going to go down that road. What I am going to say is that he absolutely, I'm not saying he was only a teacher, but he was a teacher, and he was the greatest teacher. And he taught us to be like him. He was the way, the truth, and the life. One of the big problems with Christianity is they're trying to get people to be subservient to an image of some guy on a cross, and, oh, it's only Jesus is good and I'm a filthy rag. No, Jesus said, lift yourself up. Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Jesus was the way to bring us to that walk with the Creator through the Spirit. And he said when he left, I will send you the Spirit. So when we follow our conscience, we're following the Spirit, right? So the ultimate true Christianity is not the same as the religious-based Christianity that exists. But in the day that that man was here, what was the empire? Rome. It was a Roman Empire. Who else was kind of the empire? The Jews of the day. Well, who were the Jews of the day? And I'm going to let Dan really elaborate on this issue a lot. But let me back up, because this kind of will cover our first topic of, well, the second topic of race as well. I meant to address this when we were on the race issue. It's kind of a bonus thing, and I won't go deep down the rabbit hole. But I and Dan pointed out that a lot of things that are in the Bible, people do not fully understand because the Bible has been bastardized. It's been, from the original language, it's been interpreted and translated in different ways to suit certain agendas. You can't really fully understand the Bible unless you do study the original language and know all the possibilities for the terms that were used throughout every single verse. That's the only way to fully understand it. A good example, again, is the 7th commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. People have this idea that adultery means, don't have sex with another man's wife. No, that's covered in the 10th commandment. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, right? That's covered there. Don't commit adultery. What is adultery? What is to adulterate? If you have a can of white paint and you drop some black paint in it, you've adulterated that white paint. You've changed it. You've adulterated it, which goes to Dan's point, where true adultery is adulteration of the bloodline. And Dan went through several scriptural texts where God said his people should not mix in these other nations. God's people were to be a stream bloodline of people that came by way of Adam and Eve. But there was a problem, as we all know from the Bible, in the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, which is cryptic and symbolic. There was a problem, right? There was a fall, there was a sin. That's cryptic and symbolic. And in a nutshell, this is a nutshell, all right? In the Bible, in prophecy, things have meaning, right? Like the sea, the ocean, can represent a mass of people, right? A beast represents a governing power, a world power. A tree represents a person, a tree in Bible prophecy. Just like we say my family tree, right? Our genes, our roots comes from a tree, right? The family line, a tree. So the Garden of Eden, of all the trees in the garden, you can partake, but not of this. So there's a real connotation there when you think also in terms of fruit. Be fruitful and multiply. There's a sexual connotation to fruit. Adam knew his wife and she conceived and became pregnant. So knowledge, there's a connotation of sexual connotation to knowledge, knowing, that fruit of knowledge of good and evil. There's sexual connotation throughout trees, people, clearly racial issues going on. God created his people. The fact that it's further bolstered by God saying, do not amalgamate. In the 10 commandments, do not amalgamate, do not adulterate your bloodline, do not mix out. So Adam and Eve were to be a people on this world that were to bring God's laws and God's ways to the Asians, to the Negroes, to the Indians, to all the different unique, beautiful tribes that are on the earth to bring God's laws and God's ways here. That was the initial intent. But Adam and Eve fell. They did mix outside of their bloodline and have Cain, who killed his brother Abel, because Abel said, you're not my real brother, you're my half brother. And it goes through a whole history of how the pure bloodline led all the way through, and I'll let Dan elaborate on these issues, but it takes us to the point of the bloodline of the Christ, the Yeshua, who was here 2,000 years ago. He was a mainstream bloodline of Adam. So when we think of Israel, most people think of Israel, the state, the nation state. That's not the Israel of the Bible. That's some nation state they called Israel. The Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel in the Bible, are a people. And they are a people that maintained a pure bloodline through Adam, all the way through descendants and descendants and descendants unto Yeshua and beyond. Those that are seeking to destroy what God made, including humanity, they have, part of the reason they've been endeavoring to mix all the bloodlines in races is to completely blot out that pure bloodline that came by way of Adam. All bloodlines were pure initially. You were Negro of a certain area, because there was multiple of them. Again, just like with Chinese, or Asian rather, there's different types of Asian, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, within Chinese, different societies, different languages. God created a vast array of different lives, livestock, animals, people, trees, fruits, diversity, right? And this world was basically going awry. And we can use examples of we can look at certain lifestyles that exist around the world within certain tribes and nations, people that eat dogs, people that eat cats, people that kill and eat humans, people that have a variety of different types of behaviors that are not consistent with God's will for his creation. So his will was to be carried out by the Israelites and his people and Yeshua and his followers, but there was never meant to be some religious Christian institution. So what happened was, at that time, Rome was the leading authority. And to make a long story short, there was conflict with the Jews, right? The Jews kill Christ, the Rome, I don't want nothing to do with it, I clean my hands of it. The Caesars being afraid that they better do something, or the emperor's going to kill them because the Jews are pissed off, and I don't want an uprising. A lot of crazy stuff going on that went on for a couple, 200 to 300 years. And it was actually Constantine in Constantinople, who was a Roman emperor, who finally said, let's put an end to this. Now, there are some very good people that can, in fact, one is with us here right now, who's Catholic, who believe that Catholicism is the true church, and they'll try to reference, Peter, upon this rock I build my church, because Peter meant rock. But actually, Jesus was talking about an issue, and he said, Peter, upon this rock, what I just described to you, upon this rock, this foundation that I've described, Peter, I build my church, right? He wasn't saying upon you, Peter, the rock, I build my church, but there are people that will interpret it that way. Ultimately, I don't want to go down the road of interpretations, but there's not only the controversy between Catholicism and Protestantism, but within Protestantism, you have, the Lutherans and the Methodists and the Presbyterians and the Baptists and the Adventists and the Seventh-day Adventists, and you've got thousands of offshoots of waving hands in the air as emotionally, driven by emotions, types of all kinds of churches. So I'm not going to go down that road. I'll just, as I've already done, point out that there's a mainstream of true believers of the Father, the Creator, who love truth, who seek truth, and that's what they care about, is truth and God's laws and morality, and they're seeking the high road. Everybody else, they're going to fall by the wayside, and whether they have to come back again and get reincarnated, or whether they get destroyed in hell so that they can come back again in another body, or whether they burn in hell forever and ever, I put a thumbs down on that one, because that's completely absurd. I can debate that with anybody. I don't want to go down that road. But again, there's a lot of Christian dogma that's completely wrong. It's fabricated. I'm not going to get into a religious debate here, but I'm using this segment just to point out that lineage of the Israelites was God's people to Yeshua and beyond. And the corrupt powers that be in this world are godless communists that have a new world order, one world government, godless agenda. It's about destroying race, destroying sexuality, destroying natural affection, destroying nations, breaking everything down, using the US military over the last 150 years to do it so that they can utterly destroy what God made and ultimately merge human beings into microchips and AI and robotics and destroy what God made. So there has to come a point at which either the Creator returns and does away with all this, or his people stand up and start speaking about it to try to make the right changes, which is in part what I've been doing at thebigvirushoax.com and righteousarmy.org, and Dan as well through his ministry, and many other people that are here with their ministries, including Nick. So the point is that whole idea that the Jews, there's a false teaching in modern day Christianity. I already said that the mainstream Christianity is a farce anyway, but that whole mainstream Christian narrative has an understanding, and they push that, oh, the Jews are God's chosen people. Oh, the Jews are God's chosen people. Now watch where this comes into play. And this is what Dan's going to elaborate on. At the same time, there was a mainstream pure line of Adamites, people born of Adam and Eve that went to Yeshua and beyond. There were those from Cain's bloodline that were bastardized, that crossbred with other bloodlines, that became the Edomites, Esau, those that were opposed to God and his laws and his ways, who over time manipulated the whole religious process of God's word and the scriptures of old, the Hebrew and the Israel text, and started to infiltrate their churches in the land of Judea and started setting themselves up to be like they're the religious rulers. So the Sodomites, the Edomites, the bad bloodline is essentially the bad bloodline begin to take on the narrative of we're the Jews, we're God's people. No. God's people are God's people. This false Jew, false Judaism is where, again, Revelation 2:9-3-9 says those who call themselves Jews but are not, they are liars. Nonetheless, going back to Karl Marx and his predecessors and proteges, they identify as being Jews. And what has happened now is we have the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, which was a Roman Empire Christian church that went all the way through the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages up to the modern day, where we have this Vatican Roman Empire. I mentioned earlier in Daniel and Revelation, the beast power. Most Christians who have studied the Bible understand that in the Bible, there is a beast power in this world, and they understand it to be the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, the city that sits on 7 hills. And there's plenty of scriptural verse to validate that, including the papacy, who for decades had inscribed on his mitre, Vicarius Filii Dei, which means vicar of the Son of God, as if he is God on earth, like he's God standing for the church, which is what they represent, right? They push the Pope as being this great religious leader on behalf of Christianity. He's a false Christian leader. You don't go to, as Yeshua said, you don't go to a pope or a father or a minister to confess your sins. You go directly to the Creator in your closet, right? And we have the right to go directly to our Creator now by way of Yeshua, who is the way and the truth and the life. So we now have a real conundrum, because the powers that be have not only created this homosexual LGBTQ controversy and the race controversy and the racism and the nigger BS and the damn niggers and the damn Jews. So now they've got an angle on the Jews where they can call out the Jews as being God's people and saying, let's get rid of God's people, i.e. let's get rid of the Christians. So now they can create war on Christianity. They can create war on Jews while, and this is where a lot of information has been held from us. Dan will elaborate on this as much as he wishes, but some say that the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, which stems from Rome, that governmental system created the Jew psyop to make people point at the Jews when it's not even Jews. They're just people that call, and then other people will say that those were the Jews infiltrated Rome, but again, they're not really Jews because they come from the Edomite bad bloodline. They're not Israelites. They just call themselves Jews, Revelation 2:9-3-9, and they infiltrated Rome and the Catholic Church, and they're the ones controlling it. But it's funny that you can go back 2,000 years ago to the day that Yeshua was here, and there was a controversy between the Romans and the Jews. And if we fast forward to today, there's this issue of who is it, the Romans or the Jews? Is it the Roman Catholic Vatican papal institution creating the Jew psyop? Who are the Jews? The ultimate question is, what's a Jew? They've created a psyop to make people think, oh, the Jews are God's chosen people. Oh, Israel, that little city over there, Jerusalem, that's where it's all at. So they can put the focus over there when it's really God's people. That's why even in the New Testament, it makes it clear that the church isn't a building. The church isn't an establishment. The church is God's true followers and his people. That's the church. Now on that, I'm going to yield to Dan. Go ahead, Dan. Did we lose Dan? Oh man, I lost Dan. All right. Let me see if I can, I'm going to give him a quick call and see if I can get him back on. Hold those hands, because if Dan comes on here, he might have just lost a signal.
You lost him quite a while back, Mike.
Oh, did I really? Oh, wow. Let's see here. Dan the man. He's got his own show, so I might have missed him now on this. Although if he's got his own show, hopefully he'll speak with us while he's on his show, and he can kind of cover two birds with one stone. I'll make that suggestion to him.
Please leave your message.
Oh man. I hope his phone might have died, or he's lost power, or we got a bad electrical storm down here. It just went over my house, and it was heading south, and he's south of me about 10 miles. So he might, I'll try to elaborate on what I know he would
Maybe it was
say.
a weather balloon.
Pretty much what Dan would do anyway, if he comes back on, he's pretty much just going to give scriptural verses that will be consistent with everything I'm saying. Because everything I'm saying is really, it's referencing scriptural association, but also historical association. All of these things can be studied and researched and found to be accurate, everything I've said. But it's contrary to what most people understand and believe. And that's all been by design. Again, by those who many will say are the Jews. They own the media, they own the Hollywood. It's the Jews, they're the problem. But again, Revelation 29:39, those who call themselves Jews that are not. And we go back to Karl Marx and his predecessors and proteges who started the Jewish Bolshevik Revolution that started World War I and led into World War II, where Judea, declared war against Germany. There's a group of elites in this world, to say the least. All right. If we talk about the people like George Soros, if we talk about the people like the Rothschilds, all of who are understood to be Jews. If we talk about the people Trump appointed to run the Fed, all of which associate with being Jews. If you look at just about all the people that are in any presidential administration, all of which are said to be Jews. Okay, part of the big reason people have a problem or will point to the Jews is because they understand these things. They understand the Jews as owning the Fed, owning the media, owning the narrative, and controlling everything, and pushing all the filth and smut and perversion into society to destroy everything. And there are writings. Some people could argue that they're fabricated or made up, but there are many books where there's quotes and writings from Jewish scholars saying that the white race must be destroyed because it's the only race that will stand up against us. It's the only one we have to worry about. We don't have to worry about the meek, humble Indians or the meek, humble, to themselves Asians. And we've got control over the blacks. We've impoverished them and enslaved them. So we don't got to worry about them. They're not going to do anything. But these damn warriors, these and I'm just trying to recite the names. If I go back in time, the Goths and the Visigoths, these were descendants of Israel that went into Europe, conquering and destroying pagan nations, essentially. Because again, God's people were going around. That's why there's all these scriptural verses about cities being destroyed by God's people. If you go into a city and a man is lying with another man out in the field, and maybe with a donkey too, you got the woman there with the donkey getting it on with her, and the man sliding his erect penis into that man's anus and ejaculating his seed of life into that man's feces, right? Going back to those earlier statements I made on why that's repulsive to people. And God is opposed to that, and that's contrary to God's will. And this kind of thing's going on, and they're throwing little babies into fires for Moloch. Then it would make sense for God's people, the Israelites, to go around and destroy some of these cities. So the people that have problems, oh, God was bloodthirsty and he was destroying cities. Not only did I just make a validation for it, but again, beyond that, you don't fully understand it unless you read the original language. because again, the current Bibles have been bastardized and translated to give certain impressions to people by the people that own and control and translate and interpret and publish these books we call Bibles. So there's tidbits of truth in the Bibles. And again, we have to seek the truth and you will find it. It's not to say, oh, I'm holding up the Bible, it's the perfect infallible word of God. No, it's not. The only perfect infallible word of God that could exist on this planet would be if every 5 miles there was a golden book with golden leaf pages surrounded by a force field and a flaming fire, and the pages turned for you automatically when you looked on it because God wanted you to see his word. No, he gave his word to the Israelites thousands of years ago, and it's been hijacked and taken over by the corrupt powers, but it's still there. And God allowed that because he knows only those who seek will find. Only those who love the truth and seek after it will find the pearls and the gems and the golden nuggets that are spread throughout all of the other trash that has been put into it. So that's probably all I can say on that without Dan, elaborating. Again, he would pretty much just validate everything I said with a lot of scriptural verses. And he's got a lot of historical knowledge from a lot of other books he's read. At this point, I'll go ahead and take Joseph's hand. He's been waiting a long time. Joseph, go ahead, brother, and then we'll take Henry.
Well, okay, after covering all that material that we pretty much everyone knows and some can agree with and a lot of will disagree with and people will be offended by and all the other crap in between, because you said things that were, well, probably even catch you thrown in jail today if you said it out in public in a grocery store or something, because, especially if you said the word nigger. And basically, what's the answer?
Yeah, let me just clarify that. I explained the word nigger. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm saying, yeah, but if you were out in public and trying to do that, that would, here you could do it, but out in public, people, well, like you said, they got TikTok there. So what's the answer? What are we going to do here? What are we going to do? Obviously, we all recognize, okay, there's bad Jewish people out there that are controlling the world. They're so overrepresented. It's not funny. Why you as a tiny few run the entire world system? Obviously, that's a problem that has to be stopped. So what do we do?
All right, let me answer that. Let me answer that. So first of all, Joseph asked his classic standard question. That's why I love Joe. Joe's on my inner round circle of people's because he asks big questions, but ultimately he wants to know what the solutions are. All right. So there's kind of two arguments, and Joseph's savvy to this as well. Some people would argue, well, Jesus is coming back and there's nothing we can do. I can't do anything. So I'm just waiting on the Lord. He's coming back in the clouds of glory and I'm waiting on the Lord. Right. But Joseph agrees with me. I take a position of, well, there's two problems with that. Number one, what if the whole Jesus coming back is either a psyop, it's completely fabricated, it's not true, then we're in trouble if we don't do something. Number two, what if it's symbolic? What if it's cryptic? What if it means by the way of the Spirit, his people, those who trust in him and believe in him will unite and organize and rise up and do something to make the changes. That's why I created righteousarmy.org. With that intention. At least let's try to get those of us who are of like mind to start communicating and organizing county to county, state to state, right? At least that way we're putting forth an effort so that if the creator's looking up there twiddling his thumb saying, well, y'all are saying how bad it is down there, why aren't you doing something about it, right? So I'm just covering that base just in case. That's all I've done. So the only solution essentially, Joseph, is twofold. Number one, it ultimately does come down to the individual. What can you do? The same thing absolutely any individual person can do, and that's to get right with the Creator God Almighty. And the only way to do that is to, not with a preacher, not with a church, not with anything I'm saying, I'm just trying to give a little help along, is to be of your own accord, in your own heart, in your own mind, in your closet, when nobody's around, in your own privacy, probably in tears and emotional, opening up to whatever it is and saying, God, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you are. I don't know if you are, but if you are, here I am, take me, I'm yours. And there's a fear in that for a lot of people. Oh my God, what might happen to me? What will that mean? There's a lot of fear that prevent people from even doing that. But the ultimate answer is anybody who does do that in sincerity, in the privacy of their own closet, reaches out and says, God, I'm confused. There's all these religions. There's all these ideas. I don't know who you are, what you are, if you are, but please help me. Here I am. I surrender myself to you. Here I am. Take me, I'm yours. Not in the church, not with a preacher, not anywhere, in your privacy. Here I am. Take me, I'm yours. And every day get on on your knees and say, God, please direct me, please guide me, please help me. I want to do what's right. And when you fall, like the Proverbs say, a wise man falleth 7 times and picks himself up again. I had to struggle through the pornography, the drugs, the alcohol, the drinking. I kind of got over that by myself, because it just came to me, man, don't be doing that crap. Stop it. I knocked it off. But my big struggle was the porn. It affects a lot of people. It's hard. Come on, beautiful, sexy women. You know, women, I did an essay on that, man. There's a whole spectrum, man, like the rainbow, right? From ugly to beautiful. There's women, man, with the beautiful, perfect face and hair and body and long legs and nice boobies and a great ass and nice hourglass. That's phenomenal. And any normal man is going, I want that. You know, and because all the women now are putting themselves on TikTok with a G-string up their ass, turning around and shaking, and you got guys commenting, thanks for that video. I really made a mess of myself, right? I mean, it doesn't help, right? I mean, it certainly makes it more difficult for people. Man, I struggled with porn in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when I didn't have an internet and TikTok with chicks on it all day long, you know, taking their clothes off for me and trying to be sexy. I'd have really been in trouble 30 years ago if I was around TikTok. So I can only imagine the pain and suffering and agony and struggle that a lot of men, especially young men, are going through today with that. And that's only going to exacerbate the problem. But again, what's the solution? Follow your conscience. If you feel, you know, it's wrong, even by way of you just because I'm out of control. I'm not controlling myself. I'm letting that woman's image and her body control me. I want to have control. Take control of your life. And if you can't take control of your own mind and your own life, because I can look at beautiful women all day long, but they don't have control over me. I don't lose control over them. I can appreciate them. I thumb through TikTok and I'll give a heart and I'll even say, wow, beautiful. And I'm married, you know. My wife knows it. I'm not trying to ask them out. I'm not going to sleep with them. I see them as, wow, that's a beautiful woman. Wow, incredible. Yeah, there's nothing like a beautiful woman. And there's nothing sinful. And some people are go, oh, if you look upon a woman and lust upon her, you've committed adultery in your heart. Again, the current modern day Bible has been strategically, intentionally translated to suit an agenda. So there's a message in it. It's like somebody sent me the other day, this very liberal, progressive, pro-vax, pro-Biden, pro-virus, pro-anything far left guy that, you know, tried to throw rocks at me and hit me through my car once when he saw the bigvirushoax.com sticker on the back of my car. But over a couple months, I kept trying to communicate with him and we became acquaintances. And one day he gave me a $20 bill to contribute to my efforts at the bigvirushoax.com. So we've kind of become acquaintance/friends. On Facebook the other day, he sent me a text, you know, because I read earlier my essay on race, right? Putting it in perspective and in gender and gender identity. And he sends me the text in the Bible that says, there is no bond, there is no free, there is no male, there is no female, there's only us in Christ. So easy response to him. So what do you do, my friend? You take allegories literal? So there's a message in that. It's not, oh no, there's no men. There's no women. There's nobody who's bonded right now. That means nobody's in jail. Hey, there's no free people either. Oh my God, take it literal, you're screwed. Of course it's not literal. There's a message in it. And a lot of people mess that. Not only has the Bible been bastardized and translated for a purpose, for an agenda by those in control of it, but especially where there's just a message to be had by an allegory, people don't even grasp it. They often take things literal that are symbolic or allegorical. And I mentioned earlier the thing about the tree of garden, the fruit. If you look at the original term, when it says fruit, it says semen. The original language is semen. Why would the original language say semen for fruit in the story of the Garden of Eden, right? It's because it's been bastardized and they misinterpret and people take things literal when it's not. So the real answer is twofold, as I was telling you, Joseph. Number one, it ultimately comes down to each individual, which I can't speak for. I'm just kind of giving a push. I know what I did many years ago. The only thing anybody can do is follow their heart and their conscience. Don't listen to the scientist. Don't listen to the preacher. Listen to your heart. Listen, let the Spirit work on you. Say, I don't know who you are, what you are, if you are, but here I am, take me, I'm yours. Not just because you're saying it, but because you're sincere. If you're sincere and you want to know the truth and you seek after it, seek the truth and you will find it. So that's number one for everybody. And then number two, the only thing we can do again is to try for those of us who are of like mind on these issues to come together in our communities, in our townships, in our counties, in our states. That's why I created righteousarmy.org. Joseph, you've been there with me for several months. I've been there with you. Joseph has a radio show that he's been doing for 10 years for a group of people that call themselves the Republic for the United States of America, who have proven themselves, even to Joseph, to be fraudulent. And maybe not fraudulent's even the good word, controlled opposition. They have an agenda. They are also trying to facilitate the New World Order, a top-down agenda to have control over people. So it's ultimately about individuals, be right with God, and to the extent that we can all organize in our communities and be cells, be little cells, you know. We all need to have, you know, within a 10-mile radius of our house, 5, 10, 15, 20 people that are like-minded to us, that we have their email and their phone number. In our county, we need to have several hundred that are all like-minded on our email and their phone number. And we need to do that county to county, state to state. So at least we're prepared. At least we're building an army, a righteous army. At least we're doing that. So it starts, number one, with the individual, and number two, those individuals have to start coalescing. That's the answer I'd give, Joseph. There was another hand, and that was Henry. Go ahead, brother. I believe it was Henry. If you still want to speak up. Yeah, I'm sure that Dan just had to go to his radio program. I wish he'd answered though, because if he did, I said, hey, just, you know, while you're on your radio show, speak into your Zoom and let people know you're addressing this issue, because he addresses these issues on his show all the time. So Joseph, your hand's still up. Did you have something else to say, or lower your hand otherwise? And again, when I did this video, like I said, it didn't matter to me if anybody came. I appreciate everybody that did show up. If nobody showed up, I'd have been fine, because ultimately, I just wanted to be able to express these things. It's just, you know, Dan is my right-hand kind of wingman, and he kind of elaborated on some of the issues I brought up. And again, in the event anybody did have a question or a comment, you know, they're free to make it. Often when I have these conversations, I do know that I'm throwing out like ideas and perspectives that are not real well known, and they're not real well understood. Too many people, you know, and this is not an offense or an assault upon them. Well, to some it is, because when I say there's people out there that are in the younger generation, naive and giddy and clueless, and they're literally being driven by that power that's trying to create this narrative, those people are out there. You can't do much for them. But I'll do a message like this. Like I said, this is a sermon and this is a lecture. And I would challenge any and all professors in every university in the United States and throughout the world to take this video and play it for your class as an assignment. Have fun with it. Call me, 305-910-6206 if you want to discuss anything else or debate it. I would encourage every so-called preacher out there that's in these 501c3 churches that are also controlled by the powers that be. Got an issue? You want to debate an issue? I'll debate anybody on anything. I don't believe in debates, because truth is not debatable. The truth, you just throw it out. The truth can't be debated. It can't be divided. The truth is the truth. And I'm all about the truth. But to get to the truth, you have to say it like it is. And you cannot say it like it is in the social media today. You can't do it on YouTube. They'll shut you down. You can't do it on TikTok. They'll shut you down. I know, because I've been shut down numerous times on my lives on TikTok. My videos have been taken down. YouTube, my channels have been taken down. My videos have been taken down. Facebook account taken down after 15 years. If you speak the truth, the only way you can speak the truth is to speak the details. They're more than happy to let people get on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and all this social media and have superficial debates that are divisive and controversial. They're more than happy to let that happen, because that's what they want. It facilitates their agenda. So the snowbirds and the snowflakes, rather, and those that would be classified clearly when I see them talking in ways that are just uninformed, giddy, nonsensical. Today I was cut off another live feed because I made a statement that was like a truth, factual statement that couldn't be debated. And the guy just cut me off. So I don't do it anymore. That's why I wanted to do this. So pretty much I've said everything I can say to the most part. I've written these blogs as well on the website at thebigvirushoax.com. And I've, created the righteousarmy.org as well. I put forth efforts. There's not much I can do. I am working with Michael Plump right now, who wants to work with me for his angle on trying to create some kind of a structured move forward process where we can articulate the concerns that are probably a little more, certainly more superficial than everything I've discussed here with regards to laws and rights, which I've addressed, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, things that are certainly more superficial than what I've talked about in this video. But everything I talked about in this video is core to what the New World Order, One World Government agenda is all about. And that's why you can't discuss it, because they want all the superficial riffraff to keep pushing their agenda along. They want people to be blasé and stupid and uninformed and facilitating their agenda with trivial conversations on social media. So go ahead, militia guy. I'll take questions at this point and then I'll end the meeting. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, actually, I was wondering where you were at with Michael Plumoff and a Free State, Florida forum.
Yeah, I told Michael, that I did have this meeting coming up tonight that I wanted to do, not even a meeting, just a video I wanted to do, and that I'll get with him tomorrow. So I am going to talk to him tomorrow and get some more insights into the specifics of where he's wanting to go. I made it clear in the last meeting we had last week. For me right now, I'm just focused on, I want to find like a one-pager that everybody can take and give to their pastor, their educator, their sheriff, their mayor, their manager, that puts the whole thing into perspective. And folks, we're specifically talking about the constitutional republic of the United States of America, based on the original Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, because those issues are a big part of what this New World Order, One World Government agenda I've been referencing is trying to quash and get rid of. In fact, probably the best closing statement I can make here is that the enemy of that New World Order, One World Government agenda are people who identify as being conservatives, Christians, patriots, truthers. They believe in the Declaration of Independence. They believe in the constitutional republic of the United States. They believe in the Bill of Rights. They're of those mindsets, those identities. Those are the enemy. Second Amendment, Bible believing, gun believing, traditional family value believing. Those are the enemy of the New World Government agenda. Those are the obstacle, because anything other than them is carte blanche, open. It's all good. That leftist, liberal, progressive, transsexual, transgender, transhumanism agenda, man, that's what they're pushing. And all the labels I just referenced are what are in the way of that, are in opposition to that, have problems with that. And I've detailed in this video tonight the specific reasons why that is. And those are the issues people need to be aware of, that those are the underlying core issues that are at the heart of the matter. So with that, I'll end the meeting unless anybody has anything to say. I appreciate everybody that's here being here. Aaron, thanks. Keith, I believe that's Keith up in Canada. I know you said you were going to drop in. Thanks a lot. Mark, thanks for being here, buddy. Love USA. Again, if somebody might not know how to raise the hand, if anybody wants to say anything now, I'll be quiet for a second. You can unmute your mic if you want to say anything at all. Go ahead.
I don't know how to unmute this thing.
Oh, I'm ending the video now. I don't know when you came on, but I started at 5 and I covered first issues of LGBTQ, homosexuality, transgender, contrary to morals and God, and put it in perspective. Then I went on to race, racism, racist, what the whole race thing is. Then the word nigger, the N word, the conflict with race, and what race is really all about. Covered that.
Can you hear me?
I hear you, Mark. Go ahead.
I just want to say thanks, Mike. I joined you late because I lost track of time. And is there going to be a way to hear this webcast later in its entirety?
yeah, I'm going to, as soon as we're done, I'll download it to my computer. Then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. YouTube will certainly take it down, but I'll upload it to YouTube. And then from there, I'll download it to my computer and I'll upload it to BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube. And then I will send it out, all those links to my mailing list. Do you receive emails from me? Are you on my mailing list?
Yes, I get some of them at least.
All right. Yeah. From Righteous Army USA at Gmail. Yeah, I'll be sending that out tomorrow. Links to all the options on the videos.
Sure. Well,
Thanks.
if you're going to post that on YouTube tonight, I can very quickly check it before they have a chance to take it down. Hopefully, maybe snag it and watch it this evening.
Yeah, I'll do it now. Look for it on YouTube. I will put it on. Let me see what channel I'm going to put it on. I got to open up now. Let me see.
Well, if you see me looking away from this, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll put it like this. It'll be on. Do I have?
You're welcome to have my email address.
Yeah, let me. Or I could text you. You want me to text you a link or email it?
Sure.
All right, let me go ahead and stop this recording. I'm going to stop the recording now. And anybody have anything they want to say on the recording? All right, I'm stopping the recording and then I'll get your email address. Hold on.